Halloween is back in full swing with the Connors. Let's talk about the latest episode, book bans and guillotine hands. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Connors review for the latest episode. We're up to episode 6 now for season 5, and they've just been cranking these out, new episodes week after week after week. I love it. So this is called Book Bans and Guillotine Hands. It is the 6th episode of the season thus far, and it is our Halloween episode, a holiday that means so much to this family, which actually gets explained a little bit in tonight's episode. And the history of the Connors and the Roseanne reboot is a little spotty when it comes to Halloween. Now, all right, COVID was upon us for a little bit, but still, there's been only a few episodes where Halloween has really been this front and center. So we will talk about all of that. I'll give you my my thoughts on the episode as we continue here. But first, I want to welcome you to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We've got Connors stuff out the yin-yang here on the channel. I review every single episode of the Connors, the seasons of the original Roseanne have been reviewed as well, but I also do movie and TV reviews for non-Connor related things. So, if there's a movie out that you have been thinking about seeing and you want to know my thoughts on it, check out my channel. I've got tons of movie reviews there. And unlike the Connors stuff where I kind of just talk about everything in the episode, these are spoiler-free movie reviews when I talk about new movies. So that's always something I really hold strongly about. But anyway, think about subscribing to Dan Reviews It if you like what you're seeing here. All right, Book Bans and Guillotine Hands is the name of the episode. It was written by Corey Kaplan, who has given us a few episodes each of the last couple of seasons. She was not a part of the writing team from the start, or if she was, she did not get any credited to her. And the director here, Linda Tarek, who directed the last episode. She does a handful every season, and so we just kind of talked about her last week. And so far, these episodes have been on a bit of an upswing for me. The season started out sort of in the B territory. I think we had a B- in there, and the last couple have gotten B pluses from me. So let's see how this one stacks up against them. Book bans and guillotine hands. So we'll talk about the book band stuff first, because the guillotine hands is basically just the Halloween stuff, and that really takes front and center in this episode. The book bans is sort of more of a B story, but it is sort of the I don't want to say less comedic, because there's certainly some moments in there that did bring us laughs, but this is the socially conscious portion of the episode, and not every Connors episode does have that, but this one does. And I will say there's a few absent members of the cast as usual. I thought this was kind of odd for a Halloween episode to have the two of the three kids on the show still under 18 absent. We did see Beverly Rose. She's, the youngest. But Mary was missing this episode. And once again, Mark was missing in this episode. Which is kind of a bummer, because in the Halloween episode, I feel like we want to see the kids dressing up and all of that. So that was definitely a bit of a bummer for me there. But all the other main cast members were here. We didn't see Neville, although he was talked about. But the book banning stuff. So obviously, this is a hot button issue in schools all over the country, libraries as well. But let's ban some of these classic books because they make people uncomfortable, or there's things in there that we don't want our kids to learn about and stuff. Personally, I think book banning, either one. I think it's both nonsense. I can't stand that kind of censorship, but we won't go there. This isn't a political channel, but I think anybody that's been watching me long enough sort of knows where I stand in that regard. But anyway, so I like that they're tackling this, and it makes sense. The character that's doing it, which is Harris, I think that stands to reason that she's always kind of looking for some cause, right? It's funny. I sort of see her as a little bit of an Aunt Jackie. She sort of goes from guy to guy. And not to say she's a slut or anything, but she falls in love easily, let's say. But more to the point, she sort of attaches herself to different causes, kind of like Jackie, always wanted to fit in with one group or another. So for her, it was the different jobs. She always went, one season she was a cop, one season she was a truck driver, on and on. So there, and I don't think that's on purpose really, but, it sort of just struck me this episode that Harris is sort of always looking for a cause. And I agree. I think with most of the things that she's, gone on her tirades about. So, all right, I'm fine with that. But the reason that book banning has been a thing here in Lanford is because of the school specifically that Mark goes to that she mentions early in the episode. She was, knocking on doors and canvassing and getting some signatures and stuff to reinstate some of these banned books, such as Catcher in the Rye. So Mark was at least mentioned in the episode in that regard. But in any event, there's a lot of stuff with the new neighborhood of Darlene and Ben's upcoming house. The neighbors are sort of complaining that Dan has been working sort of, off-peak hours, early in the morning or late at night or whatever, when people are trying to sleep, get to rest, whatever, and there's loud hammering and what have you. But Darlene thought, you know what, I don't want these neighbors to hate me like my neighbors here, at the Connor household hate me and have hated me, my whole life because of my parents, etc. So I'm going to do something nice for them. I want to build a little free library for them. And we've seen these popping up. There's definitely a few locally here that I know about where it's just sort of a free library kind of thing, It's built like a birdhouse usually, and you open it up and you take a book, or you leave a book if you have an extra book lying around that you want to get rid of but don't want to toss away, and it goes from there. But the neighbors are upset about that even, because Harris was putting, unbeknownst to Darlene, Harris was putting some flyers for the whole banned book, the signatures and the protests and all that stuff, all of that political material, I guess you want to say. I don't think it's political necessarily, but whatever. The print materials for the cause that she's going for with the book banning. And people in the neighborhood are upset about it. They're like, don't tell us, what our kids can and can't read. And I caught my 9-year-old, reading, I think it was Lady Chatterley's Lover or something. But anyway, so that's sort of the book banning thing. It causes a bit of a stir between Darlene and Harris, because Harris is like, oh, you took, the neighbor's side. I want them to like me. Why don't you care about my thoughts for you? And of course, Darlene played that off as only Darlene can, and said, well, you stopped loving me at age 8, so, I want to try some people who I have a chance with. I thought that was very clever. And that's sort of where we go with that. They end up making up towards the end, which we'll get to. But then there is all of the Halloween stuff that this episode is kind of predicated on. So Katie Seagal's character, she, can't help Dan decorate because she is playing a bar mitzvah gig. And Dan's been working on the house, so he can't really decorate, so he leaves it to the kids, and basically nobody wants to do it except Becky. Becky is so excited because it's Beverly Rose's first real Halloween. She talked about how COVID sort of took the last two from her. And look, at this point, she's old enough to remember, Halloween anyway. I think she's supposed to be 5 in the current timeline or something. So, she's very excited and wants to do this, but everybody's sort of bailing on her, and finally, Dan comes home and is like, hey, I don't see the yard decorated, like, what's going on? And Becky tells him, like, hey, look, nobody wanted to do it but me, and whatever. So he is really upset, disappointed, and tells Louise about it. And this is so cool. We got a little bit of insight into why Halloween is such a meaningful holiday for this family. And basically, talking about Roseanne again, and you can't have a Halloween episode, I think, without at least mentioning Roseanne, right? So he tells her that when they first got married, the two families really did not get along. So Christmas sucked, Thanksgiving sucked, but they were able to make Halloween their own and go all out Connor style with the Halloweens. And look, it's always sort of been a some sort of a running gag that, look, this family, especially in the 90s, could really not afford these $300 costumes and all of this lavish stuff, and all of these decorations. Look, say what you want about that, but I definitely know people who live very meagerly, maybe even in a trailer park or something, but have, a huge TV or something. They one thing, that gives them joy and brings them happiness, they will, save for and put it towards that. Look, it happens. We all deserve that, right? Everybody deserves something that they can be happy about, even if it's living a bit beyond your means. So, look, I sort of went with it, but I also never doubted that this family did kind of pull all their money together when it counted, to have a great blowout Halloween. I believe that, yeah, there's a little TV sort of wink, wink, and okay, we'll suspend our disbelief for a moment there too. But I found it kind of believable, and it was great to find out why from Dan. This was a great scene, really heartfelt, and it speaks volumes, I think, also about Katie Seagal's character, that she right away was like, okay, well then, hey, we'll try it again next year, Dan. Da, 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 da. But in her mind, she's like, oh, F this. I'm reaming these kids out, and we're doing Halloween. So what ends up happening is, while they're at the new house, Dan, was kind of called there to grab something from the shed, and there is a little surprise sort of Halloween haunted house thing going on. They said, oh yeah, the kids are going to come in and trick or treat, and it's going to be spooky and crazy and whatever. And I love that. There is a moment where I didn't quite understand how Dan sort of missed that. This is really suspension of disbelief, I think, because he was sort of playing with the chimney at the library, the lending library that Darlene and Ben had created, and sort of putting some candy corn down the chimney. It was a cute scene, but a little bit later on in the episode, we see Darlene and Harris out there talking and sort of making up, and Darlene, points her in the direction of this little graveyard of all these banned books that Darlene had created. And was like, look, yes, I care what the neighbors think of me, but hey, they'll get the message, I think, about where I stand with, book canceling and book burning and book banning. I keep saying burning, but that was, I guess, a thing when I was a kid. But yeah, book banning. The graveyard was lit up and right there next to the birdhouse. I think Dan would have seen it. So, all right, well, whatever. We'll suspend our disbelief for that. But then inside the shed, everybody's dressed up. And what was really cool about the costumes this year is everybody was two things. And some of the costumes were explained. I'm trying to think of well, and Dan, of course, didn't know what he was, but they gave him like a skeleton thing too that lit up when he put his hand in the right socket or whatever. So it looked like he was electrocuting himself. So that was cool. But Louise was Alice Cooper in Wonderland. So everybody was sort of a blending of two ideas and two costumes. Darlene was in a catcher's mitt, or catcher's outfit with a sandwich around her, and so she was the catcher in the rye. To one more way to support Harris with the books. So I thought that was really cool. That concept was a lot of fun, and Ben was doing because he had a Frankenstein costume that they mentioned early in the episode, and he was a Ben Frankenstein hybrid. So it was like Ben, what did he call it? Ben Frank, and his name is Ben, of course, so that's kind of cool too. But Ben Franklinstein or something like that. But so yeah, that was a really cool concept. I liked that a lot. And Beverly Rose got to then have her first Halloween. But yeah, for sure I was bummed that we didn't see the other kids in this episode. Most episodes I'm kind of like, whatever. I do always, miss Mark if he's absent for like more than 2 episodes or something. Mary, we don't even know her well enough for me to miss her, so I can take or leave her. But, other than Beverly Rose, she's the youngest. So it would have been nice to actually, have seen her having a really good time as well, with that. So, look, and then the end of the episode, the tag scene was all sorts of costume fun from the previous 30 years plus, I guess at this point, of Roseanne and the Connors Halloweens. Now, they did not show any with Roseanne. I'm sure that was part of the stipulation, that her likeness cannot be shown in this new iteration of the Connors, even if it's old footage or something. Because I was trying to remember, because earlier in the run, maybe season 2 or something, they would have little clips from the old show. And I remember there was one with Darlene and David. There was one with George Clooney as Booker and Jackie and maybe Crystal, but was Roseanne in that flashback? I couldn't remember. But my guess would be no if they did not use her in this Halloween montage, because some of her costumes were so epic. There was one that I thought could have been Roseanne, but it really flashed by quickly, and I think it was just Jackie. And because they're all costumed up, sometimes it's hard to tell a little bit. But yeah, so I would say they probably that was part of the Roseanne buyout, portion of the contract. But it was cool to see, from the Halloween episodes of years past, because, like I said, it's been kind of spotty on the Connors. And yeah, okay, the one year was COVID, but the one year they did a haunted house sort of in the house because nobody could really go trick-or-treating because of COVID. That was a cool episode. I remember the one had a Halloween party at school as sort of a backdrop, but, maybe that was season 1 of the Connors or 2, but, nothing was necessarily really it wasn't a Halloween episode, This one definitely was, for sure. And I was glad to see that. So, look, this might be some nostalgia on my part for loving these old Halloween episodes. But I thought this one was very enjoyable. I will give the MVP to Sarah Gilbert and Darlene. I thought it was a really great storyline with the book banning and her sort of fight with Harris and stuff. And I thought she also had some really funny lines, like when Becky was complaining about Beverly Rose not getting a Halloween till now, and she was like, well, that was your fault for not having a baby till 5 minutes before your eggs turned to stone, or whatever it was. That was a funny remark. So yeah, I'm gonna give it to Sarah Gilbert. She does not get MVP often. She is actually, I think, even though she's sort of the star of the show at this point, I think she's a little bit of an unsung hero because they make her character so unlikable sometimes. But yeah, this one for me, best of the season so far. And again, maybe there's some Halloween nostalgia in there for me. But I really enjoyed this one. I give Book Bands and Guillotine Hands an A-. All right, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time on Damn Reviews It. Bye.